Today is the day. Finally gonna put some paint on the C20. Get the body work all done. It's all been sanded down. Ended up doing a lot more work than I really intended on. And it's still not perfect, but it should look pretty good. You can see it, this line here. It's hard to see. You'll be able to see it better once I get paint on it, but this was like non-existent over here. Same on the other side. I put some spray bomb primer on it just to see what it was going to look like, make sure it was straight enough. But yeah, can't wait to get the paint on it, get some color, and see how it looks. It's all been sanded down with, I used a worn piece of 220 everywhere that I had touched up after I put the primer surfacer on. I had sanded that all with a block with 100 grit and then 220 grit, and then I went over the whole truck again with a worn piece of 220 grit, even though I'd already sanded the whole truck with 320 when I blocked it originally. So hopefully there's not too many sand marks that show up. I really should hit the whole truck again with 320 or 400, but I'm gonna be putting a primer sealer on it, which I'm hoping takes up some sand marks, but it's really not that bad. I'm gonna be painting this in a dirty old garage. It's kind of brings me back a little bit. I used to paint cars in here, geez, almost 25 years ago when I was a kid. So it's gonna be the first time I painted a car in here in a long time. But what I'm gonna do is, in that bag right there is a plastic called Panda plastic, or I guess it's called Panda film. And I am going to pull all the lights from the ceiling and other lights that are no longer even in use, and I'm gonna plastic the whole ceiling. That Panda plastic is awesome stuff. It is black on one side and white on the other, and I use it to build like hydroponic greenhouses, like in the house and things like that. I use it a lot for doing gardening and stuff. But I'm gonna go ahead and pull all these lights down and get started putting that up, and you'll see the difference in here. It's gonna look so much better. There'll be less dust and stuff to fall down on the truck. It's not gonna be a dust-free environment, but it'll be a lot better. It's gonna really brighten it up in here. So let's get that going. I bought an entire roll of this stuff. It's on a roll that's 10 foot wide, 100 feet long. And I'm not going all the way to the very end. I'm leaving probably 6 feet at that end. I'll get to that later. But I'll have 2 feet on each side that can actually roll down the sides of the walls after I get this second piece up. Let's see if I can actually finagle putting this thing up and having it be semi-flat. So enjoy watching me struggle for a while. Oh, got all the plastic up. Looks a whole heck of a lot better. I've still got some trimming to do and neatening up, but that is good enough for now. One thing I wanted to show you was these LED lights. These were already up. I had to take them down to do the plastic, but I believe that the company is Beringa or something. But I got them on Amazon and they were like dirt cheap. I want to say they were less than 40 bucks shipped for all 6 of them. And they use like no electricity to speak of. Very, very low power. But they work really, really well. It's hard to tell, you know, in the daylight, but let's see if I can get a better angle. And during the day, obviously, it's super bright out right now, so it's hard to see them, but yeah. All right, let's get that truck in here, get it masked off, tack cloth it, and sealed. Got the truck all masked up and ready to go. I don't know if I said this before, but I am doing it backwards, and I'm not doing the door jambs now. I will actually come back, clean up the door jambs, and do them after. Yeah, it's just what I'm doing. It's not the normal way of doing it, but that's what I'm doing. So, trying out a really cool new feature on YouTube. If you see any products that you like on my masking, you can just touch the screen and you'll be taken straight to the landing page where you can purchase that product. Pretty cool. Go ahead and try it out. So, I am about to, I'm going to use the back of the truck as my little work area because I don't have a ton of room in here. And what I'm about to do is tack cloth the whole truck. I wear gloves when I handle a tack cloth because all that sticky stuff, it transfers right to your hands and then you're stuck with sticky hands. So that sucks. I'll be using a Finish Line by DeVilbiss FLG4 gun. I've used this gun many times. I lost the lid and I decided that a bucket, paint mixing bucket, will work just fine as a lid. I poked a hole in it so it's still got a vent. I've got a new packing kit I actually have to put in here before I use it. What I'm using for paint, I went through TCP Global. This is the sealer or primer, depending on how you mix it. It just goes 1-to-1 with a hardener, but then to make it, it's 1-to-1 to hardener for a primer, but then if you're going to make it a sealer, you add some reducer. And I didn't buy any of the reducer when I bought this stuff, so I'm going to be using this PPG DT870. It's an old reducer that we've had kicking around, and I'm going to go ahead and use that. Hopefully it's going to be okay for the paint and for the sealer. I can't remember if the paint actually requires a reducer. I'll look at that. So I'm going to get this tack clothed all up, and we'll shoot a little bit of film while I start spraying on the sealer. The sealer is all on. It laid down really nice. It went down really smooth, really flat. Kind of looked a little bit orange peely at first, but as it dried and the reducer, you know, dissipated, it really came out pretty good. There's definitely some body work I could still see that's not perfect, and there was a couple areas I did see some sanding marks as well, but it is what it is. So now for the color. It's called Burnout Blue. It's a Restoration Shop, same brand as that epoxy sealer. It's inexpensive stuff. Maybe I'll put a link to the company I got this stuff from if you're interested in checking that out. So yeah, I'm gonna tack cloth it one more time. I got a new tack cloth. Go over it real quick. I had one spot where the gun actually dripped on the paint over here, so I gotta scuff that out real quick. Tack cloth the whole truck again, and we'll be good. We'll be in business. My plastic worked out flawless. So my new plastic sealant I just put up, I didn't get anything in the paint. I didn't see any dust fall down or anything because there's nothing up there. So let's keep this going. Well, coat number 1 is on. I struggled big time. I'm not sure if I've ever sprayed a single stage urethane before. And this stuff, it says to mix it 4-to-1. Just, that's it. 4 parts paint to 1 part hardener. And I did that, and I did the roof and the hood. And I could not get the paint to really come out and atomize. I mean, I even went up to 70 psi. It was just crazy. And then it started looking like it was laying down. Like you can see, there's a lot of stripes. This is just the first coat. Like it seemed like it laid out. But then I started noticing that I don't know if you can catch it in the camera, but all the metallic was just kind of like floating down. It shouldn't it shouldn't do that. So I was putting it on way too thick. So then I ignored their directions and said, I'm going to put it on with 4 1-to-1. So I added a reducer. And that's how I did the sides. You can see, I mean, it's blotchy because it's the first coat, but it laid down a whole lot better. This is the side you can see that I did on the video. Overall, it doesn't look bad. The paint, the bodywork, everything looks all right. But because of how I'm trying to learn how to use this stuff and get it to lay out nice and smooth, I've got quite a few runs, like a lot of runs. So, like, see some right here. See here, you can really see that metallic floating. It was kind of running down, just the metallic. That's no good. Right here, the gun dripped on it. I thought, well, I could maybe wipe that off. And I did that, and then I went over it again with paint, and I looked back 2 seconds later, and it did that. That's bad. So like I said, there's a few runs. It looks really bad right now. See it puddled up right here. A lot more stripy on this side. Like I said, the hood's before I switched to doing 4 1-to-1. Lots of stripes on the roof. It's actually really striped. That looks terrible. I got some runs in the front, like really bad right here. And so now I don't know if I want to continue and put more coats on, or do I want to let it sit and then wet sand those runs out and then finish it, doing it with the 4 1-to-1, or maybe even going 4 1-to-2. This stuff, it's just too thick. I don't know how people are normally doing it, but yeah, I mean, even the coverage, like for one coat, that's pretty insane. But yeah, so it's mixed. I'm happy, and I'm like really disappointed at the same time. I wish I would have done the 4 1-to-1 to begin with. Would have been a lot happier. Wish I didn't have all the runs that I got. There's a bunch right here. So you can see the reflection is nice and crisp. So I'm getting a pretty good finish on it, but at the cost of getting a bunch of runs, and that's just no good. So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna think about it for a minute, decide what I want to do. I don't know if it makes sense to put more paint on, let it harden, and then wet sand out everything. I don't know. The decision's been made. I'm gonna let it harden up. I'm gonna sand out, or wet sand out, all the runs I have. See if I can get the paint and gun working together the way that I really want them to, and paint it again. It still needs a couple coats anyways, a bare minimum of 1. I'll probably do at least 2 and go from there, because it's just, I've got too much work into it to just, you know, really mess it up at this point. So I'm gonna take the time, let it harden up. I don't think it'll be hard enough in one day to sand it, but we'll see. And it's all gonna happen in this video though, so you'll see it really quickly. It's the next day, and I am super happy that I made the decision to stop and let it harden up. And so it's only been, I don't know, hasn't been 24 hours. Probably, I don't know, let's just say it's like 18 hours or so. I really am happy with how it's coming out overall. Those runs were terrible, but letting it harden up, I was able to wet sand those right off with a piece of 320. And I didn't go completely nuts. I just made them smooth. Like you can see that, but you can't feel it right now. So I think once I get some paint on there, they will look just fine. Like I said, even here, you can see it, but you can't feel it. That's gonna be totally fine. I just mostly tried to flatten them out. I didn't try to be absolutely perfect. Like this had a blob. It's mostly visible because of all the metallic that floated up and made it like black. So that will kind of go away. Just a bunch of spots I had to just clean up. Some stuff that I'm actually not even gonna bother with, like right here, and see that. You're mostly seeing it because of the metallic floating up. I can feel that a little bit, but it's not worth messing with. So there's a bunch of little spots. Ended up not being hard. I've probably been working on it for a half hour. I was able to sand them all out. And I'm optimistic that I learned a lot yesterday and that I can get this stuff to spray even better. I'm gonna try, still going probably 4 1-to-1, and I'm gonna try to turn my pressure way back down. I had it cranked right up, like I said, to 70 psi, which is, I know sounds insane, but when you can't get the paint to atomize, you got to do something. But that caused so much cloud in here. It's amazing. The truck looks this good, because it was such a thick cloud that look at all my white. My white plastic is now mostly blue, but it still looks a whole lot better. So I'm gonna hit it with a couple more coats and see what happens. All right, well, it's time for the grand finale. I got the truck outside. It's still a little bit tacky, which makes me nervous because I'm afraid bugs are gonna land in it, but I had to see it in the sun and I had to show it to you in the sun. So let's turn the camera around. I'll show you, the things I like, the things I don't like. Overall, I'm pretty happy. And then I'll talk about the things I learned that I had forgotten. Here it is. It's actually, the camera does not do it justice. This paint looks absolutely amazing. Not necessarily my paint job. I just mean the paint itself. This burnout blue is incredible. Like, it flip-flops from blue to purple. It's got wicked amount of metallic in it. Just beautiful. So I did still end up with some runs, all right? So this paint job is not perfect by any means. I'm trying to get my shadow in it. And you can also see I'm being picky, because I am picky. Some fluttering a little bit in the metallic. That's just me not having my gun set up right, and it could be my technique too. So things I learned. Number one is I would always use a reducer in a urethane, at least this brand urethane. Probably the biggest thing I learned was that this stuff will go on really, it can go on a little bit rough, and it will actually kind of melt, almost like you're painting like a polyurethane, like a clear polyurethane, oil-based, and you painted a whole door and it looked beautiful, and then you walked away and came back and it was all running. That's the sort of thing this does. It dries very, very slow, and it does not like to have any recoating at all until it's totally dry. So what I paint base coat, clear coat, is pretty much all I've ever done. I think I said I've done probably like 20 cars. And it flashes so fast that I paint a panel at a time. So I'd come across here and stop and go back. Well, you're gonna get some overlap on the door. And then when I come back and I do the door, I'm gonna get some overlap on that fender. Well, those overlap areas on urethane, not good. So you really need that technique. You'll see other people do this on YouTube, where you're spraying and you get close and you just kind of whip your gun out. Like, you don't want a lot of paint on your edges, and then when you do this side, do the same thing, just kind of whip it out. I remembered all those techniques after it was too late. So I did end up with a couple runs. They're not horrible. There's a couple spots. The worst one is probably up here. The rest of it's not that bad. You can see that the color looks totally different depending on how you're looking at it. But also keep in mind that when I did this, I was not setting out to do a perfect job. But that's a pretty cool shot. That looks really neat through the camera. You can see my body work's pretty good. It's not absolutely flawless, but I wasn't setting out to do it perfect. I went way further than I ever wanted to. And to be honest, I probably did that a little bit because I was recording it and sharing it for the world to see, and I didn't really want to do a half-assed job. Some of you might still think this is half-assed, but I think for an old half or three-quarter ton truck, it doesn't look too bad. There's really no stripes in the hood to speak of. You can see the sky, the clouds, pretty crisp and clear. Like, I'm pretty happy. Didn't get a lot of dust in it, almost no dust. My plastic worked really well. So now I still have the cowl to do, and I've got the tailgate to do, and I've got some kind of sort of custom things I'm going to be doing with the grill. And I probably won't show the tailgate and the cowl. Next time you see the truck, those will probably just be on it. And but I will show you what I'm going to do with the grill. And I'm probably going to make either buy custom bumpers or make my own out of the bumper that I have. And I'll probably show all that too. And then I am also going to be making a completely or mostly custom interior. At least the door panels are going to be custom. And I might do a little bit more custom than that. We'll see. But I'm excited that this is done. Like I said, it's kind of a mixed feeling because there's things I'm just not crazy about. But all in all, I don't think you can really complain too much. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like if you liked this video. It's kind of long. And subscribe if you want to see more videos on this truck and other things that I'm working on. Thanks for watching.